Thank you, Paul. When I need support for living life as an artist, I turn to Mauro Altamura, who is one of those people who has no choice but to be an artist. It's just in his blood. His first MFA is in visual arts, and then years later he joined us at Rutgers Newark for writing. He's currently associate professor at New Jersey City University in Jersey City. He teaches photography and creative writing. He has received grants from the National Endowment of the Arts, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, and the New York State Council on the Arts, among many others. Mauro.
Thank you guys for coming. This is a story that I've been reworking. It's older, but I've been reworking it lately. And I don't know where it comes from exactly, except I have a friend from this town in California, and I just imagined her living through this somehow. The title of it is Suzanne. The rain came strong for 5 straight days last February here in Visalia. The Kaweah River grew wide as a spayed cat, and old Mrs. James, who taught high school Latin and spoke it like a saint, drove right off the road, went in and under, and drowned. The county road gang pulled her from the fastback Volvo 3 days later, after she failed to show for class 8 o'clock prompt, like she'd done every morning forever. Her seatbelt was snug as a handshake, palms faced up in her lap. She lodged in a dark hole 15 feet deep. Maybe she'd try to take the shortcut through the lower muddy pass at Riverbend that disappears every winter. Or maybe she veered a scant yard or two, found her wheels spinning, mud painting the air like a freeze frame of breath before she hit the water. Funny about those small deviations that run us smack into a dark alley or a hidden cave or someplace we just shouldn't be. On the road above the river, we watched and listened as a rescuer's radio played Feliciano doing Light My Fire. Jose's drawl pulled the words out from behind his blind eyes. Trying to set the night on fire, he sang over and over. His palm beat the hollow body guitar, rapping on the doors of long empty rooms. The tune disappeared in the sun, and only the rush of light on its way to one more day made us think there really might be fire. Drivers looked down, dark metal shimmered. Circling gulls and jet-black crows spread their wings like a benevolent god, blessing everything that moved below. On Mrs. James' last strange Sunday, 2 sharp blue Lincolns had pulled into the parking lot of St. Martin's. The story's told that she and the other Presbyterians were gearing up for their recessional hymn, but were jolted instead by Suzanne, Leonard Cohen's sad lament of a love song, flowing softly from the wall-mounted speakers. It was an odd modern miracle unfolding as they prayed. Bowed heads snapped alert like blooming lilies, then turned to see a wild-eyed, black-haired stranger with a gun and a flair for things electronic. He tapped into their sound system, which everyone always had assumed was absolutely closed. The stranger held the congregants all day, aided by a pudgy fellow sadly named Buddy, who seemed to have decided to remain mute. Buddy carried a long, curved sickle, held aloft as if it were a torch or a crucifix. He stared, then stared some more, all while maintaining his vow of silence. The stranger put Suzanne on repeat for hours, a torturous taste of purgatory. Afterward, not a member of the church didn't have the words to that song burned in their memory, not to mention their souls. The stranger left in the evening, and so did Buddy. They turned off the music, strode from the altar, down the aisle, and out. Neither said a word to the faithful or each other as they drove away in opposite directions. 3 stars shot across the western sky, colliding somewhere off the coast of Mercury. It's funny how back roads lead odd music lovers to quiet people caught in the middle of prayer. Sacramento TV came down the next day to interview and film. A 2-minute spot ran nationwide, one of those human interest fillers wedged in before the anchorman jokes with the weather girl near the end of every broadcast. Leonard Cohen got more airtime that night than he'd ever dreamed possible. The broadcast ended with a shot of the river, credits rolling over our dear black water as a sanitized string version of Suzanne softly filled all our dimmed living rooms. Everyone spotted the tall young man when he appeared in the top corner of our TV screens. He stood on the bank of the river just before the image faded from our connection to the world. It was Mrs. James' red-haired son, skipping rocks like the lost orphan he'd recently become. He never went anywhere except the community college for his associates in history. Sally, his sister, had warned him before she lost both her breasts that it was time to move. He stayed close, though, through Sally's sick days up until she was gone. He watched her become a small child, hairless and yellow, falling in on herself before disappearing like a spill of milk in the sun. The boy is called Greg, or Gregory, depending on who's talking, and he's quiet as a breeze passing over soft grass. Now he looks out over the water on TV forever, a painting that shimmers, same as the phosphors in the Pacific late at night. The rocks he throws are flat flint, brought down here from the Sierras before humans or bugs walked or flew. Trapped inside the rocks are the tiny bones of all his fathers, the nerve endings of anything that's ever lived with blood in its vein or air in its lungs. He flips the rocks out and they do nothing but sink. They'll move down the river into Morro Bay in 1,000 or so years, with any luck at all. We watch Gregory alone, looking up to the sky, as if he might be able to see past the gray. His hands rest at his sides for minutes on end, motionless, like the lead ballast that keeps a ship erect. But when he throws, his limbs snap about fiercely, curling out from his hip, a bullwhip taming some snarling coyote. Gregory's tall body preaches with each toss, speaking smartly enough for heaven to hear, though the rocks never break away from gravity. If they could only lift, like sight, and reach the place where vision rests, then Gregory might move away. The smell of fuel hovered with the gypsy moths when Mrs. James finally was brought up and cut away from her harness. Her body was round and bloated, but her makeup had stayed put. Her hands faced the sky. We were sure she was still calmly thinking about singing Suzanne and about her daughter, Sally, about the rain that washed away the road, and surely about finding a way out from a dark, sad hole of mud. So I'm going to introduce our